Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I've got for you today is coming right off of CNN, and it's going to make blood shoot out of your eyeballs. Everything that I'm about to show you is sourced and linked right down there in the description box. But we had the leader of the Progressive Caucus, the one that's all about gun control, all about equal rights, social justice, women's rights, protecting women the victim, everything's against them. That whole thing. Yeah, she just came out on CNN and said, I get it. It's a war zone. Rapes happen and stuff. Seriously. Like I said, everything will be linked. Of course, as we dive into this, let's tie it into gun control because there's a little bit of hypocrisy we have to uncover and dig up, and it's not that hard because it's right there at the surface. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. All right, my brothers and sisters, I've got 3 clips for you, and you need to watch all 3. I'm going to be honest. This, who I'm about to show you, is the leader of the Progressive Caucus on the Democrat side. She's being interviewed on CNN by Dana Bash around the offenses and insults and honestly horrible instances that are going on against women in the Gaza and the Israel war. Okay? This is not a conversation about the war for this channel. This is a conversation about the hypocrisy of what they say here around our gun rights and what has to be given up in order to prevent this very thing that they're talking about. And then her response here is pretty gross. Probably one of the worst takes I've ever heard. But let's dive into it. Fair warning, this is an emotional topic, but it's got to be done. Let's get it.
Ask you about sexual violence. And it's kind of remarkable that this issue hasn't gotten enough attention globally. Widespread use of rape, brutal rape, sexual violence against Israeli women by Hamas. I've seen a lot of progressive women, generally speaking, they're quick to defend women's rights and speak out against using rape as a weapon of war, but downright silent on what we saw on October 7th and what might be happening inside Gaza right now to these hostages. Why is that?
Why is that? Now, you talk about a pointed question. First of all, CNN doesn't really do this very often, so I'm sure that Jayapal is quite caught off guard. That's the progressive leader right there. One of the things that we say consistently on this channel since we've started the political aspect, the analysis, the gun news, the gun advocacy, all of the gun controlling perspectives, and particularly leaning towards the Democrat leadership side, they're all organized in pillars. Like all their platform pillars are like this. They do really well when they're talking about nothing else because they can say things that are contrary to the other pillars. But when they lean into each other and they start to conflict, you get some real bad fireworks and some grinding because there's a lot of hypocrisy, which is why we're covering this, because we're about to dive into what they've said about our gun rights in the exact same scenario here in the United States, only not to the extreme. This is around domestic violence. Check this out. Here's the first one. We covered this. Domestic violence exacerbated by wartime, raising concerns over looser gun policies. That came out of Jerusalem Post in Israel. This is back here in the United States. Supreme Court to decide if gun bans for domestic abusers are constitutional. Shannon Watts. The NRA opposes the Violent Against Women Act because the legislation could lead to firearm confiscations over misdemeanor domestic violence or stalking convictions. Why are we letting the gun lobby write our laws? And the last one I've got for you of the actual news, Supreme Court poised to support law banning domestic abusers from owning guns. Gun safety and domestic violence prevention advocates rallied at the Supreme Court. Gabby Giffords was there, Shannon Watts was there, all the who's who was there to say that the Rahimi case was a tremendous affront to women in general, and we should curtail gun rights because of the impact on women. Meanwhile, the exact same person is on CNN, Jayapal, the leader of the Progressive Caucus, all about women and women's rights and gun control and social justice, saying that, yeah, rapes happen. It be like that sometimes. In fact, here's a little more history. She signed this around the Rahimi case. Members of Congress filed brief opposing legal challenge to gun possession ban and domestic violence restraining orders. And wouldn't you know it, there's her name right there, Pramila Jayapal. Okay, so we've established the whole tack of taking the gun rights was around the veiled idea of the fact that women's rights and women's violence against women should curtail gun rights. And by the way, now that we're hovering around the subject, rape is disgusting. Violence against women is disgusting. Violence overall is pretty disgusting, especially when you have to prove how much of a man or a woman you are by exerting power over another individual. I think that's pretty gross. However, Now we go on to the rest of the clips, which are going to blow your mind. Here's the second one in her response, and then she starts to shift, listen, and then Dana doesn't have it.
I mean, I don't know that that's true. I think we always talk about the impact of war on women in particular. In fact, I remember 20 years ago, I did a petition around the war in Iraq.
Have you said,
saying
have
that,
you talked about it since October
absolutely.
7th?
And I've condemned what Hamas has done. I've condemned
Specifically
all
against
of
women?
the actions. Absolutely. The rape, of course. But I think we have to remember that Israel is a democracy. That is why they are a strong ally of ours. And if they do not comply with international humanitarian law, they are bringing themselves to a place that makes it much more difficult strategically for them to be able to build the kinds of allies, to keep public opinion with them. And frankly, morally, I think we cannot say that one war crime deserves another. That is not what international humanitarian law says.
Okay, good rule of thumb for everyone watching and taking notes. It's probably not a good take if you start off a sentence and say, of course I'm against violence against women. Of course I'm against rape. Of course I'm against all the horrible things that are happening to women. But, yeah, that probably could have just been stopped without the but and then the continuing statement. In fact, this is a progressive talking about women's rights all the time, needing to infringe upon gun rights because domestic violence and all the impact on women, all that we've heard it across the board with the Violence Against Women Act, against the pushback against the Rahimi case, which I've already shown and laid out. But now the truth kind of slips out. And when CNN is calling you on it and you're a Democrat, you're doing something wrong. Check this out. This is the payoff right here.
Says.
Okay, with respect, I was just asking about the women, and you turned it back to Israel. I'm asking you about Hamas. In fact,
I already answered your question, Dana. I said it's horrific, and I think that rape is horrific, sexual assault is horrific. I think that it happens in war situations. Terrorist organizations like Hamas obviously are using these as tools. However, I think we have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians. 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping
well, Dana, I
Palestinian
think
women.
we're not.
I'm going to let that one lay where it is. However, same rule applies. If you're saying it's a bad thing for women to be raped and rape to be used as a weapon of war, and then you throw a fancy butt of however in there, again, probably on the wrong take. But I would just like to highlight that the person who is leading the progressive caucus on the Democratic Party side to take gun rights consistently, using women and domestic violence against women as an impetus to take those gun rights, just said, yeah, but it's war. Rape happens. I'm just saying, mask slipped, clown revealed, evil, real bad, not a good look. Probably stay away from butts and howevers, but that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.